I've always been surprised that I've been able to teach what I've been teaching in the universities, because I've always regarded it as crazily radical in a sense, you know. It's crazily radical in a conservative way. I don't know what to make of that.
Your teaching is crazily radical?
In a conservative way, yeah. I mean, it's in a conservative way because I think that the past is not only has value, we cannot live without the integration of the past. No more than you can live as an individual without integrating your past. I mean, we're historical creatures, right? And without, if we're not united consciously with the past, then we're divided internally and socially, and that has consequences. So some of them are playing themselves out in the political divisions in the current world, but the consequences can be fatal. So, you know, what's the saying? A house divided amongst itself cannot stand. Right, exactly. And the house is a very, very, to the degree that any symbol is universal, the house is a pretty universal symbol for the structure of the psyche. So, yeah.
And flowing on from that, it's interesting to hear you call it radical conservatism, because there's a few quotes that I transcribed that from the ideology, logos, and belief lecture, which I remember having a kind of hair stand up on the back of my neck moment when I heard you say this. I don't know what happens to a person if they bring themselves completely into alignment. I've had intimations of what that might mean. We don't understand the world very well. We don't understand how the world could be mastered if it was mastered completely. We don't know how an individual might manage that. We don't know what transformations that might make possible. That's mysticism rather than religion, is it not?
Well, I don't know if you can draw a distinction between those two things to some degree, because you could say that in a religious system there's two components, and people are temperamentally inclined to align with one or the other. There's a dogmatic component, so the conservatives are more likely to align with that, and there's a active mystical component, which updates the conservative component but also threatens it, so, which is what creative thought does in general. And so I would say that the mystical element of that is religious, but it's more on the transformative side. But, you know, I also think that figures like the Buddha, you know, he's an exemplar of the possibilities of that alignment. And the exercises, the yogic exercises, for example, are attempts to bring that alignment into being. You know, I mean, it's very centered on the body, which is quite interesting, even though it's a spiritual tradition, right? It's very, very centered on the body. And I suppose that's related to the idea of the Christian idea, and the Jewish idea for that matter, but the Christian idea more particularly of the sacredness of the body, and also the Christian insistence that in the universal resurrection, the body will also be resurrected, right? It's not, and you know, people are cynical about that idea, but there's a, you know, because they think about it as simplistic and archaic and superstitious and all of that, and they're missing the point. The point is that that system doesn't denigrate the body. It says the body, there's something about the body that's integral to being and cannot merely be disposed of. And so if there's an eternality to existence, then it's an embodied eternality. And that's not, especially given what we know now about the manner in which intelligence operates, is it's not really possible to have a disembodied being. It's not possible, really. So